Former President Thabo Mbeki is celebrating his 80th birthday today. Mbeki served as the second president of a new and democratic South Africa from the 14th of June 1999 to September 2008. For more on events planned to mark the occasion, we go live to Sophie Mokoena, SABC's international news editor. She's at the Sandton International Convention Centre. Sophie, good evening to you. A milestone birthday for the former statesman. What's on the bill?
Yes, indeed, a milestone. And I think today friends, relatives, and also comrades will gather here to celebrate this important event. We know that according to family members, the former president didn't want a big affair or event, but they insisted that it is important to reflect this. You know that his predecessor, former President Nelson Mandela, also had a big event when he was celebrating his 80th birthday in Kunu. And I remember very well, very few media houses were invited, and it was just SABC and CNN. And we were able to get a glimpse of Madiba when he became one of the senior citizens at 80. And today we will be witnessing another former president celebrating his 80th birthday. We know that from childhood he has been involved in politics. Earlier on I was talking about how he joined the ANC at the age of 8 years when he was able to raise money to kind of pay for the ANC Youth League membership card. And then he continued to be a senior politician and, of course, a former head of state, making history by becoming the first AU chair in Durban. And when the Organization of African Unity was transformed to the AU. And since then, he has indeed focused his attention in the development and also peace maintenance on the continent. We know that during his tenure, he really spoke at length or all the time about the renaissance of Africa.
And that certainly has been, you know, his big marquee activity over the last couple of years in building the African profile. But a number of books, Sophie, have been written about what constitutes a President Thabo Mbeki legacy. You've named some of the highlights there. What are some of the other ways that you think he's going to be eulogized?
Well, like any human being, and no one is perfect, and I guess his legacy speaks to that. We know that there were times where he really made a mark. I want to make an example in 1964 when he was 22 years old, when he led a march in London when he was a student at Sussex, calling on the international community to isolate the then apartheid regime, but also saying that the international community must keep an eye on the Rivonia trialists who were arrested, and also there were fears that they would be hanged. A similar message he conveyed at the United Nations when he was still very young, but also worked very close with the former president of the ANC, O.R. Tambo. And what comes to my mind about his work and his engagement with O.R. Tambo, he once told me about their visit to Cuba with former ANC President O.R. Tambo when they were preparing for the talks, and when they were talking to former leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro, asking them hard questions about the policy of nationalization. And also he was there when the ANC took over power in 1994, becoming the deputy president of the republic, and former President Mandela leading the country. And then in 1999, he became the president of South Africa. You know that at some point in time, there were also issues when we think about the pandemic currently and the controversies around the pandemic based on what leaders are saying around the world or how they behaved in a quest to deal with this issue would recall that there were issues around how he handled the issue of the HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
And, but later he was able to take a different view, and he established what we call the comprehensive treatment, and also looking at issues of stigma, and also appoint former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo to lead the campaign in a fight against HIV and AIDS. And I think that's the issue many people are still talking about, the issue of Zimbabwe. You know that the issue of quiet diplomacy, and it's not quiet diplomacy, but I think you know that when you are a mediator, when you are a facilitator, you cannot stand on gallery and start condemning both sides, because
right.
then you will not be seen as a neutral mediator. But he has done a lot on the continent on issues that are related to peacekeeping, and even now he is still involved in Sudan. He is involved in Malawi, we are told,
right.
and also leading that special committee that was appointed by the AU to look at the illicit financial flows out of Africa.
Thank you so much, Sophie Mokoena. I know this is an event of circumstance. We are hoping to take some of that event live here on the SABC, but I wonder if there'll also be dancing. And, you know, the blowing of candles. I certainly hope so. And hopefully we'll see some of that a little bit later. Sophie Mokoena is our international news editor.